right there with the etiquette thing is an example of creating woman. The mannerisms, how a woman acts, walks, how a man acts. That's not natural. See, people think, oh, that's just naturally how a man or a woman... No. Everything, the brain, like I said 100 times, is a computer. It's completely empty. Like if you bought a computer from the store, you took it out of the box, it had nothing installed into it. We install all these stereotypes and everything on how to act. Oh, Johnny, you have to act this way. Girls act this way. Girls have tea parties. Girls do this. It's all programmed and brainwashed into you. Because think of a woman. Okay, if a woman, you know how you ever hear of Amazon women, like Wonder Woman, right? Where she's like, tough, right? She's an Amazon. They're considered giant and they're more masculine, right? Or they're considered manly. That's why they call Amazon women. It's like, no, they're actually what is a natural woman. They're not brainwashed to act what society says to be all cutesy and girl and, right? They would just be a regular person. Like how you talk, Brittany. Talk to me.
Hi.
No, but you know what I mean. Like you don't have the stereotypes put into you. Like you didn't follow the whole like hey or any type of or act all like I have to be a certain way or live up to a made up standard. You just act like a person. I'm not saying you're not attractive. I'm just saying that I see like we were saying, like I was trying to say before, is that I feel like I found that balance where I'm not a living programmed robot stereotype like a manufactured person. We have that middle where we're not a stereotype. I see beyond your physical appearance that we label, like how you're labeled woman because you have a vagina, or whatever features. So, but I think Brittany. I don't think girl or guy. That's when you know you found that middle and you're not a stereotype or you're the real thing and you're not society made. See, a lot of people are a walking, talking, fake robot that was created. Think about it. Okay, let me think of another example. It's like, you know how people say man and woman, right, is natural, Brittany? Like, it's the natural body. There's man and woman, and they mate and they have babies, and it's natural. And science says all this stuff is natural. No, it is not. I'm gonna blow your mind. It's actually unnatural. Science is unnatural. Everything is actually unnatural because we're playing Dr. Frankenstein and we're taking a human baby that knows nothing, not how to act. It doesn't know to act like a girl or a guy or whatever the hell we say. It doesn't know any of that stuff. We play Dr. Frankenstein and we tell it all this stuff, and that's how things are. Okay, you know how women use the way they seduce to get a guy. You know, they have. Give me an example, Brittany. They have, you know how girls have tricks to play all defenseless?
Yeah.
Because to play up on guys wanting that, just to reel in the guy. Mm-hmm. They don't care if they don't care if it's sexist because they just want to reel in the guy, right? Yeah. And then a guy will act like what?
Manly,
macho, like because he knows it. Yeah. So that's us programmed to think we want that, though. If your parents and society didn't instill that into you, like, okay, Brittany, don't you know of parents where moms say, for how many years women or moms have taught their daughters, here's how you get a man, honey, right? Yeah. Don't people say that? They literally brainwash you. That's what it is. You don't really know to act a certain way. There is no standard on how to. So we're literally unnaturally warping brains and creating two separate humans cut in half. When really we could be one complete full person. Like, not to sound cocky, but me. I'm not a woman, I'm not a man, or I'm talking by any of that. I'm a person and I have all the elements together. See, what they do is, say parents have a boy and a girl. They have a set of two. The dad bonds with the son and teaches them boy things and to be this and that, and then the mom, and then they have to go to the mom for their problems, and the dad's like, I don't understand girls, or that's us brainwashing each other, thinking and everybody literally thinks we're different. Like, dad doesn't think like a girl, so I gotta go to mom. Right, Brittany? Is that not the perfect point? So we're literally brainwashing everybody to think they have different parts to where they're actually different. But really, if you don't put all that in people's heads, we'd have all the stuff. You'd have, like, I'm not saying, no, I don't want anyone to take this wrong by saying, guys aren't sensitive or this. No, I'm saying on how we rip elements from a man and a woman, do we not, Brittany?
Yeah.
Men get less sensitive, and then because they think, women cry more than men, or women get more. It's like, no, a man could be that way, but then society eventually, it's like a tomboy girl. What happens? They don't act like society tells them to be like a girl, and then what happens when they get older? Eventually they get sucked into having to do it.
Yeah.
Right? They eventually give in, and they eventually get warped into, right? And then they call it, it was just going through a phase. No, it isn't. You just turned them, you just transformed them into a man-created woman. On all the way a woman's supposed to act, da-da-da-da-da. You took a tomboy, which was just a regular person, or girl, but no, a person with a vagina, a regular person, and then they had to give in and get turned into a girl. Do you know what I'm trying to... Does that make sense, Brittany?
Yeah.
You're turning them into a girl. They didn't act... They didn't... society... And it's the same thing with guys. And if a guy is sensitive or really... then what happens? And girls are brainwashed to be an asshole, and they don't want to date him, even though they go on about how, I want a sensitive... Or I want a guy who understands me, da-da-da-da-da. But then when the guy's like a girl, they're not attracted to him. Or I'm not talking about every case, but I'm saying does that not what happens? All of a sudden you're friend zone, right? Doesn't that happen, Brittany?
Yep.
But really, do you realize if we didn't, fuck with everybody and say, from when they're, and if society wasn't so fucked up, because here's what happens. A kid studies their surroundings and their environment and mimics, monkey see, monkey do, right? Do you ever see kids repeat?
Yep.
They pick up words and they're like, don't curse around Bobby because he'll pick up, right? Blah, blah. They pick up everything you do. So girls see, and then everybody gets trained. It's like we're monkeys at the zoo. Our society, we're not even real. We're literally programmed monkeys, taught monkeys see how to do, act, think, how to think. Everything is put into us like a computer. We're not even really living. Nothing. Our own thoughts are male thoughts put into us, female thoughts. We're a walking fake creation. It's sick. And me, I'm just saying that, do you realize if you didn't create that label, if we didn't create woman, then it'd just be one human. And then there wouldn't be a way for them to be shit upon. There wouldn't be a war. There wouldn't be like, my husband doesn't understand me, or he's not sensitive, or this and that. We're creating a war of genders of separating two different people with one half, bickering. You don't have this part. Do you know what I'm trying to say, Brittany?
Yeah.
So then we're creating a gender war, when really if you just didn't fuck with anybody, they'd have all the parts that you take away from them when we're little, or alter us. Nobody thinks about, it's like how, if nobody told you, hey, Brittany, what happened the other day? Didn't somebody say to you, well, next time I see you dress more like a girl?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, we're just gonna create stereotypes? That's what we want to do? So, and people are like, well then, you know what people will say? Well, what do you mean that, what do you mean, the hell am I trying to say? A girl doesn't have to be all girly. They don't always do that. Da-da-da-da-da. It's like, well, that's just my point. Then what does that say then? Then there is no gender. Because a girl could just act like a guy. And a guy could act like a girl. And just be. Look at how I'm acting. I prefer to look what is made up to be a feminine girl, but that doesn't mean I have to act or think or be or anything. It's just a physical preference. It's like I was trying to say in part one. Okay? Well, part one of this that cut me off. Which is actually, this is part four? Woo! No, I'm considered a transgender person because I'm transitioning to be, woman. But really, I'm not transitioning because, like I said before, to transition would imply that you'd have to transition into something else. But I'm already me. It's just I'm changing the preference of my body, of what I want to look like. That's all it is. What's changing gender? Or there is no gender. It's just I prefer a vagina. I prefer to get it in instead of... That's it. That doesn't mean you have to be a whole different gender, a different person. Your brain's the same thing. It's just a preference of what you want to physically look like. That's all. Is that not what it comes... Is that all it is? So why does gender even exist then? Why do I have to be a woman now, but then, okay, here, look. Oh, see? Here's the beard that blocks out my... my structure or all that and changes the whole... So once I have this beard, I'm automatically a guy to society because here's what I was trying to say before of how we create two different... Not only do we create two different genders by brainwashing, by telling them how to act, what a woman is, program them, we also do it by stereotypes. We say, women shave their legs, they arch their eyebrows, they don't ever have a beard, that's what makes woman feminine. Feminine is considered woman by that's, and then males have hair, women can't. So then I could look completely like everything, right? But if I have that beard, they're gonna say, well, oh, that's a guy. See that guy? Oh my God, see that chick? That's actually a guy. Even though, even going beyond this, even what's considered natural woman with vagina, they have beards. But then people automatically, I know I said this in the other videos, but I'm just bringing this up. They think that they're either transitioning, or they were a man, or they are a man, or something. But really, it's just that women get 5 o'clock shadow too. So there's no proof in that. But literally, once you have a beard, oh, you're guy. That's how our brain is brainwashed. So we create through the stereotypes too. Does that make? You know what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
Brittany, I'm asking you all the time because I'm just making sure that I'm not all sound like I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
So the only reason why I'm asking you is you're my only audience right now.
You're fine.
So that's why I'm. So I just want to I want to cover all my examples. Say okay, people would say also with being transgender or like me, I'm transition. Why if I already look like all this, except for the beard or whatever, and I have a penis? Well, we all know that. Why would I have to be a man right now who's transitioning or in the middle? Do you realize that science is science? Science is a human. They see the differences, right? But they make up the labels. See, because we're science is not God. We could make up the labels and we could just say, here's an example. We say, men and women are different because women have a vagina and men have a penis. Correct, Brittany?
Yeah.
But why? Okay, could we not, if I was a scientist and I wrote the book, say it was up to me hundreds of years ago, or say I wrote it, couldn't we say, because everything's man-made up, the labels, like the word vagina, the word penis, if you came from the woods, Brittany, would you ever hear those words? No, they're made up. Everything in society is made up and told you, so you can't argue me that it's all made up. So what if we said, just like belly buttons, right, Brittany? A belly button, there's innies and outies, right? But nobody says, oh, you have a different gender or if it's a different piece, right? Right? They say there's an innie and an outie. And isn't scientifically, isn't a vagina like a penis but inside?
Mm-hmm.
So couldn't we just say that's an innie penis? Couldn't we say that?
Yeah.
Couldn't we say it's women, what's the difference between a woman? When you see okay, here you go. When you see a boy and a girl when they're young, when they're like 6 years old, right? Or 8 years old, before they go through puberty, right? Do they not look the same thing? Don't boys have feminine features, Brittany?
Yeah.
Aren't they exactly the same at that point?
Yep.
Like it's just that when guys get a little older, they get, what is it, more testosterone? Is that all it comes down to?
Yeah.
It comes down to having more testosterone where they get a little rougher and then they get a beard or they lose a little bit of the really soft features, correct? So they go through like a little bit of a puberty and then when women kind of stay under, right?
Yeah.
Lower because they don't have as much testosterone, correct? And that's why they're considered weaker, right?
Yep.
By assholes, physically, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so why couldn't we just say that there's no such thing as men and women? Or we're not gonna make a downgraded, watered down gender. That's pretty much what woman is. I'm not saying I believe it, but Brittany, isn't it a good point that creating woman just pretty much just admitted that a man was a jerk and said that, wow, you're weaker and you're this and that and softer and you look like a little boy, so you're just under us and you're the weaker sex and you're almost like a diluted man. Isn't that what they were pretty much implying by making woman man?
Mm-hmm.
When really, you could have just said, well, we're the same thing and we evolved a little bit, or we went through puberty. Some guys go through puberty a little different, they stay softer and they have a innie vagina, or an innie penis, right? Couldn't we say that by scientists?
Mm-hmm.
It's all just on the, what do you call it? What do you call when somebody decide? It's all on their interpretation.
Yeah.
And just somebody wrote it that way, hundreds of years, whatever. Religion. Think about Christianity, right? With men and women, Adam and Eve, the first people. Isn't it the warped Christianity? Which, I'm not trying to insult anybody who's Christian. I'm just saying that it got warped through time because Jesus did not follow Christianity. That's what a lot of people don't understand. And the whole Bible and all that stuff came out 400 years later after he was gone, and it wasn't his teachings. Isn't that right? Proven, Brittany?
Yeah.
Right. So, it is fact that Christianity is altered to just almost like for people to use it as like a dictatorship to force people. It's almost like a law to like force people in a certain way somebody wanted. So, couldn't we say that woman, because if you're not religious, say you're not religious, well then you wouldn't believe in Adam and Eve, right, Brittany? Mm-hmm. So then why would you believe in man and woman? Couldn't you say, and it's not extreme, think about it, couldn't you say that woman is simply just a Christian term? Because you're going by Adam and Eve and the whole man-woman thing? But if you take away religion, why do you have woman? You're just the same thing, and you have a different type of penis where one could carry a baby and one can't. That's the only difference. That doesn't mean you have to make a whole fucking goddamn case out of making two different people. You know that was a slave thing because think about the man from the beginning of time. They're always trying to control people. It's like I said in part 2. I said, what did they do with African people? They saw them as different. They said they were beneath them and stupid, and they're right. And they said that you're beneath me and you're a black man, you're a Negro, and you're a slave. It's the same thing with women. You see it a little bit different. This and that, you see them weaker than you because you're arrogance, and then you make them a slave in the kitchen. What have women been forever till they finally got to broke out? They still get paid less, right? So as long as we have this woman title, we're always going to use it where our brain's going to think there's differences, which is going to keep us apart, keeping us more separate. So people think every time they fight for rights, oh, we'll just make up more labels like gay pride or women's rights. You're actually just accepting a white man jerk-off label that was to hurt you or to keep you under. That is the truth, and nobody realizes because we're so used to hearing these words. Like how, black people have accepted the term black and they like it, but that doesn't make it right. That's where I found the flaw in George Carlin. He said about, he proved about what I was saying about how, why the hell would we call ourselves Americans when it's after the European explorer and it just... who found the place and then we stole it and murdered them all, so why the hell would we call ourselves Americans or them? It's the ultimate insult. So it's like, okay, there you go. He said that too, but then his giant flaw was, he said, well, I'm going to call black people because that's what they want to be called. It's like, yeah, I understand because you want to be, I'm not trying to insult anyone, I'm just saying that just because you accept a slave term that the white man asshole created, that just means you're giving in to what the fuck they did to fuck with you. So... black man, Negro, woman, you could really gay. Well, think about gay, Brittany. It wasn't gay just said by people who hated homosexual people, so they said it to try to alienate them or to put them in a freak category. Like you're not one of us. You're something different, right?
Yep.
And then they just owned it, just like black people own black or the N-word, right, Brittany?
Yep.
So how is that a good thing? You're actually just literally giving in to the asshole instead of fighting and saying fuck you. I'm the same. We're the same. These labels are just separating us because what it does is when you create these labels, people start to believe stereotypes and think like, wow, woman thinks differently than man. Black man thinks differently than a white man. It's the same thing. Same thing with okay. When homosexual people began to start coming out, like at the end of the 60s and the early 70s, right, Brittany?
Yeah.
They started coming out, and there was the whole swag, secretly we are gay, which is funny, by the way, when people say they're swag. Isn't that around the time and that's when they were called gay, right? It was a way to alienate them to be into a freak third category, like a third gender, like, oh, you're different than a regular guy, you're not a woman, so we're just gonna put you in a freak category, like an insult, correct, Brittany?
Yep.
Right? Isn't that what it comes down to? That you're owning some...
Yep.
Okay. So wait, hold on. What am I getting at? Hold on, I'm losing. There's a lot here. Couldn't they have said, okay, the people who... Because you got to remember, there's an agency that makes up what we consider politically correct in our society. You know that, right? Like what they have in books. And you know how you ever hear the term, that's not politically correct, that's not the proper. Just like how they said, I forget what organization it is, but they made up that fucking piece of shit name for the natives. They said they're Native Americans just because they wanted to put the word American in it. So, and then people accepted it and said, well, there you go, that's the politically correct term, even though it's an insult because it's who murdered them all. Okay, So, getting on that, I'm getting to the point here, that couldn't the people who said that, oh, well, couldn't they have easily have been an asshole because of, people forget how horribly treated African people were and homosexual people were, right, Brittany, back then?
Mm-hmm.
Do people forget that segregation with Africans was going on in not even that long ago, in 1962? There was, and with homosexual, it's really not as long ago as people think. They're just not, like I said 100 times. Same thing with women, like, oh my God, like, okay, so couldn't they have been an asshole and said, well, you don't fit all the qualifications of a guy because you act like a girl and you don't like women, this and that, and we don't understand because you got to remember their mindset. And then couldn't they have easily have said, like, no, you're going to be a third gender, just like they're trying to do with this whole transgender bathroom crap? Isn't it pretty much just insulting you, segregating you, saying you're a third thing? You're a freak. So as we're thinking we're making progress, we're actually just making more categories, more keeping us apart. That's what nobody under. So really, gay, they could have easily, the people who run the whole politically correct thing, because they decide, and then everybody follows it. Because nobody has a mind of their own to really put it all together, it seems like. So couldn't they have easily have made them a third gender to be a dick?
Mm-hmm.
So then, who's to say, right? Well then, and another point I wanted to make was about, what was I saying? Okay, if transgender existed, how I said before, how you can't be transgender because there's no such thing as gender. It's all just a brain being brainwashed to act like a thing. You could act like I could be people could literally take a baby right now born, like right out of the hospital, not knowing anything, and raise it to be a gorilla. You know that, right, Brittany?
Mm-hmm.
And it would think it's so I hate when people are like, the girl brain. I know I said this in the other part. There is no such thing as a girl brain. It's simply you being brainwashed with concepts, man-made concepts. And that's why I was saying that science is not natural. Science is simply seeing a couple little physical differences and separating us and creating, well, chaos. If you think of, actually it's unnatural, because think about, okay, when we think of men and women, now over here in genocide land, Western civilization on this continent, I'm not going to say the A word, North blank, on this continent, in the United States, Canada, whatever. What the hell am I saying? No, what the hell was I just saying, Brittany? Woo! I'm trying to roll here. What was I just saying? You're not even paying attention. Pay attention. I feel like a teacher when no one's paying attention to my lecture.
I'm tired.
Pause it.
I don't know if I can.
What do you mean if you can?
I said, I don't know if I can.
You always did before?
No, I can't. That just took a picture.
Oh.
I can't. This phone doesn't let me pause.
Okay, but I can't remember what the hell I was getting at.
Okay. Well, we're going to have to do a part 3.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to cover all this.
Okay. So, wait for part 3.